What if the strange changes you've been feeling lately, the restlessness in your body, the confusion in your mind, the sense that time is slipping through your hands, are not accidents at all, but sacred signs whispering that your soul is entering its final awakening? You may think you're ready for this journey, that you've read enough books, heard enough teachings, and practiced enough meditation to understand what awakening means. But the truth is, this is not the gentle stage of self-discovery anymore. This stage is far more raw, far more intense, and far more life-shifting than anything your mind has prepared for. Because awakening at its final stage does not arrive as a soft breeze. It arrives as a storm, stripping away illusions you didn't even know you carried. Imagine a fire that does not burn the skin, but burns away everything false within you. Imagine waves that do not drown you, but wash away every layer of identity you thought was real. Imagine standing in the middle of your life, watching it unravel and realizing it is not an ending, but the beginning of truth. Awakening at this depth does not ask for permission. It does not wait for you to be ready. It comes uninvited, and yet it comes as the greatest gift, because it is here to set you free. Today, I want to share with you 7 powerful symptoms of this final awakening. Signs that may shake you, signs that you cannot escape, but signs that, if embraced, will guide you home to your truest self. Symptom 1. Time feels unreal. There comes a moment in the awakening journey when time itself begins to dissolve. When the ordinary rhythm of life no longer flows the way it once did, and you catch yourself wondering why a single day feels like a blur, why hours vanish without notice, or why weeks pass yet feel like only a fleeting breath. It can feel disorienting at first, as if something in your mind is broken, as if you are losing your grip on reality, because the schedules and structures that once made you feel safe no longer seem to hold their power over you. But this is not a malfunction, and you are not falling apart. This is the loosening of your soul from the chains of linear time, the unraveling of the illusion that life is only measured in seconds, minutes, and years. When in truth your spirit belongs to something timeless, you are beginning to touch the eternal, the place where past, present, and future fold into each other like waves returning to the same ocean. And though your mind may resist this strangeness, your soul recognizes it as home. It may feel like your days are unreal, dreamlike, almost synthetic, but that sensation is not meant to frighten you. It is meant to awaken you to the truth that you are more than a clock ticking on a wall. You are a consciousness expanding into infinity. So when time bends, when hours vanish, when days blur together, instead of asking, "What is wrong with me?" try asking, "What is time trying to teach me?" What if time isn't something you are moving through, but something that is moving through you? What if each moment isn't passing by, but rather flowing into your heart, reshaping you, preparing you for the vast eternity that you are slowly beginning to remember? Symptom 2. Your body feels strange. There are moments on this journey when your body no longer feels like it once did. When you wake up in the morning and the heaviness of fatigue clings to you, even though you've slept through the night, and you wonder why your energy has vanished without reason. Sometimes it feels like your chest is filled with a quiet restlessness, as if your heart is learning a new rhythm. And no matter how you sit or lie down, you can't quite find comfort, as though your very skin has become too small for the soul that is expanding inside of you. You may notice odd tingling, sudden warmth moving across your arms, or a strange vibration in your spine. And though no medical explanation seems to satisfy you, something deep inside whispers that this is not sickness but transformation. These moments can be unsettling because we've been taught to fear what we do not understand. Yet, what if your body is not breaking down, but simply recalibrating? Like an ancient instrument being tuned to play a higher note that it has never played before? Imagine a caterpillar who one day feels its body dissolve into formlessness inside the cocoon, not realizing that the discomfort is the birth of wings. It does not know that what feels like the end is simply the body preparing for more light, more freedom. Spiritually, these strange sensations are signs that your physical form is learning how to hold more awareness, more light, more presence than it ever has before. Your cells are stretching, your nervous system is expanding, and the energy that once flowed like a trickle is beginning to pour like a river dot. It is as if the universe is gently carving more space within you, so that love, wisdom, and truth can settle more deeply into your being. Even if the process feels uncomfortable to your mind that craves stability, instead of fighting these waves, perhaps the invitation is to listen more closely, to ask your body what it needs, whether it is rest, water, movement, or silence, and to treat it as a sacred guide rather than a broken machine dot, so the reflection becomes gentle and simple. Instead of fighting these waves, can you let your body teach you how to rest and trust? For maybe the very sensations you resist are the ones teaching you how to surrender, how to be carried into the next chapter of your awakening. Symptom 3. Emotional storms. There are days when emotions come rushing in like sudden storms, and you find yourself crying without knowing why. Tears slipping down your face, not because of any present pain, but because something ancient within you is finally rising to the surface. Sometimes, anger erupts in you like fire, not aimed at anyone in particular, but burning through your chest as if centuries of silence are finally breaking into sound. At other moments, a deep sadness comes uninvited, heavy like a shadow wrapping around your shoulders. And though you try to understand it, there is no clear reason, only the weight of emotions you thought you had long buried. These emotional storms can be frightening because we're conditioned to believe that something is wrong when we feel too deeply. Yet, what if the storm is not destruction but cleansing? The sky of your heart releasing what it can no longer hold? Spiritually, what rises in these moments is the shadow. The parts of you that have been silenced, ignored, or hidden away. Old wounds, forgotten memories, unresolved grief. All asking not to punish you, but to be seen, honored, and finally released. It is as if your soul is cleaning out an attic filled with dusty boxes. Each box carrying emotions you once pushed aside, and now the universe is saying, it is time. Open them, look inside, and let go. In truth, every tear is a doorway. Every burst of anger is an energy leaving your body. Every wave of sadness is a weight being lifted so you can walk lighter, freer, more whole. So instead of fighting these emotions, can you sit with them as you would with an old friend, asking softly, what emotions have you been carrying that are finally ready to leave? Perhaps the question is not how to stop the storm, but how to allow it to pass through you, trusting that on the other side of the rain, there is always clearer air, softer light, and a deeper sense of peace. Symptom 4. Losing interest in old roles. There comes a moment on this journey when the things that once defined you, your job title, your achievements, even the roles you played in relationships, suddenly feel like clothes that no longer fit, as though you've outgrown them without even realizing when the shift began. Maybe you notice that the work you used to pour your energy into now feels hollow. The hobbies that once filled you with excitement now leave you restless. Or the social circles you once tried so hard to belong to suddenly feel foreign, like a language you no longer speak. At first, this can feel unsettling, because we spend so much of our lives building these roles, believing they are who we are, and when the passion fades, it feels like losing a part of ourselves. But what if this emptiness isn't loss at all? What if it's the beginning of freedom, the quiet death of ego-based living, where the soul no longer wants to perform for approval, but longs instead to live in truth? Spiritually, this is the moment when the soul begins craving authenticity, When the mask is no longer enough, when the applause no longer satisfies, because the deeper call inside you whispers, there is more. There is something real waiting to be lived, and though it can be disorienting, it is also sacred, because every role you shed is like shedding an old skin, making space for the truer, more luminous you to emerge. Think of it as the moment a caterpillar stops crawling and feels an inexplicable pull toward the cocoon. Not because crawling was wrong, but because flying is waiting. So instead of fearing this loss of interest, can you see it as a gentle invitation from your soul? Can you see it as a gentle invitation from your soul, asking you to stop pretending, to stop performing, to stop clinging to what no longer feels alive? The question then becomes simple yet profound. If you no longer had to play a role, if no one expected you to be anything but your truest self, who would you truly be? Perhaps the real gift of losing interest is not emptiness, but the sacred space that opens, where the old dissolves and the authentic begins to bloom. Symptom 5. Feeling the world more intensely. There comes a point in awakening when the world itself feels different, as though someone has turned up the volume on life, and suddenly everything around you feels louder, sharper, heavier, and more alive than ever before. You might find yourself walking into a crowded place and feeling overwhelmed, not just by the noise, but by the invisible energy of everyone around you, as if you can sense their emotions pressing in on your own heart. Once felt normal. Laughter, music, conversations suddenly feels too much, like your body and spirit cannot contain the intensity. And even the smallest sound or flicker of energy stirs something deep inside you. At the same time, when you step into nature, it feels different too. Trees seem to breathe with you. The wind feels like it carries whispers. The stars seem closer, and the earth beneath your feet feels alive, pulsing with a rhythm that resonates in your chest. This is not your imagination. It is your senses tuning into higher frequencies, decoding vibration more clearly than before, as though your entire being is adjusting to a new wavelength of reality. Spiritually, this sensitivity is both a challenge and a gift, for it can make the ordinary world feel overwhelming, but it also allows you to perceive truth beyond appearances, to feel the invisible threads that connect all beings. It's the reason you may cry when you see something beautiful, or feel exhausted after being around too many people, or feel an inexplicable joy when sitting alone under the sky. Your soul is no longer numb. It is alive, awake, and aware. And though at times you may wish to shut it off, to return to the numbness of before, can you instead see this sensitivity not as weakness, but as a gift? An invitation to walk through the world with more compassion, more presence, more truth. The real question is, if your heart can feel so much, how will you use this sensitivity? Not to shrink away from the world, but to meet it with tenderness, to listen more deeply, to love more fully. Perhaps the truth is that your sensitivity is not a burden at all. It is proof that your soul is remembering how to feel everything is sacred, that nothing is ordinary, and that every breath is a living prayer. Symptom 6. Facing your shadow. One of the most profound moments in awakening is when the shadows of your own being begin to surface. Old fears you thought you had outgrown, regrets you tried to bury, or hidden parts of yourself you never wanted to admit suddenly appearing before you, as if life itself is holding up a mirror you can no longer avoid. Sometimes these shadows arrive in dreams. You wake up in the middle of the night with visions of faces from the past, emotions you thought had disappeared, or forgotten moments replaying like echoes calling you back. At other times, the shadows come in daily life. Sudden waves of insecurity, bursts of jealousy, flashes of anger, or the uncomfortable realization that there are still parts of you don't fully understand or love. Though it may feel frightening, this is not punishment. This is the sacred work of awakening, for the light of consciousness shines so brightly that it illuminates everything, even what has been hidden in the darkest corners of your soul. Spiritually, facing your shadow is not about fighting it, but about welcoming it. Because the truth is that these parts of you are not enemies. They are fragments of your being that have long been exiled, waiting patiently to return to the warmth of your acceptance. Imagine holding your shadow the way you would hold a child who has been lost and frightened. Your fear, your anger, your shame, they are all like children at the door, knocking, asking not for rejection, but for love. The more you resist the shadow, the stronger it becomes. But the moment you turn toward it with kindness, it begins to soften, to dissolve, and to transform into wisdom, strength, and compassion. So instead of pushing shadows away, what if you held them like lost children returning home? What if you let yourself become the safe space where all of you, even the hidden parts, are allowed to belong? The question is not whether you have shadows, for we all do, but whether you are willing to love yourself so fully that even the darkest corners of your being are bathed in light. And perhaps, when you finally make peace with your shadow, you will discover that it was never something to be feared. It was only the forgotten doorway to your wholeness, waiting patiently to be opened. Symptom 7. Life feels like it's falling apart. There often comes a point in awakening when it feels as though the ground beneath your feet is breaking apart. When the plans you once held tightly seem to collapse, the relationships you counted on begin to shift, and the future that once looked clear suddenly dissolves into uncertainty. You may look around and wonder why everything you built is shaking, why the routines that once felt stable now feel empty, and why people you thought would walk with you forever begin to drift away like clouds, carried by unseen winds. At first, it feels cruel, almost like betrayal, because the life you knew is falling apart, and with it, the identity you carefully constructed, leaving you with nothing to cling to. Yet what if this collapse is not the end, but the sacred clearing, the necessary storm that strips away illusion, tearing down walls that were never truly home so that your truest self can finally step forward? Spiritually, when life falls apart, it is often because what you were clinging to was built on sand, built on expectations, on roles, on fear, on false security. And the soul refuses to stay trapped in a house of illusions any longer. This unraveling is not destruction. It is rebirth, for only when the old structure crumbles can the new foundation be laid. One that is rooted not in fear, but in truth. Not in performance, but in authenticity. The pain of losing what once defined you is real. But so is the freedom that comes when you realize you no longer need to hold together what was never meant to last. In these moments, the question is not how to stop the falling apart, but how to trust the space it creates. How to see that the emptiness left behind is actually fertile ground for something more real, more lasting, more aligned with your soul. So ask yourself gently, if everything you cling to fell away, if every illusion dissolved, if every mask was gone, what truth would still remain shining at the center of your being? Perhaps, in the end, life falling apart is not life's cruelty. It is life's mercy, the way the universe clears the stage so your soul can finally step into its most authentic role. Not as an actor in a borrowed script, but as the author of your own truth. If you have been walking through these symptoms, if you have been feeling the weight of change and the pull of something unseen, I want to remind you with all gentleness, you are not broken, and you have never been broken. You are simply transforming into the person your soul always knew you could be. Transformation does not look polished. It does not arrive neatly tied with a ribbon. It often comes through the unraveling, through the shedding, through the moments where you wonder if you can carry on. And yet, it is in these very moments that the seed of your truest self is breaking open to the light. Awakening is not a process that waits until you feel ready. It does not ask for permission from your comfort zone. It comes when your soul whispers that it is time, and the only invitation required is your willingness to surrender to the unknown. Trust that even when the path feels uncertain, your soul knows the way. Trust that even when the night feels endless, the dawn is already rising within you. Perhaps life feels heavy. Perhaps questions outweigh answers. But remember this: what is crumbling is not your essence, but the illusions that no longer serve your journey. And what remains is the truth you have always carried within your heart. So instead of asking, "Am I ready for this?" ask gently, "Am I willing to trust?" Because awakening is not about readiness. It is about letting yourself be carried by the current of your own becoming. And if, as you hear these words, you feel a spark of recognition, a quiet resonance inside your chest, then let that be the reminder that you are not walking this path alone. We are many who walk this way together, learning, stumbling, rising, and remembering. If this message has touched you, if it echoes something you've been experiencing, I invite you to share your story in the comments, because your voice may be the very mirror someone else needs on their path. And if you feel called to walk further with us, to receive more guidance, more reminders, more moments of truth along this journey, then I welcome you to subscribe, not as a follower, but as a companion. Because this path is not about walking alone, it is about walking together, with open hearts and open hands. So let us keep walking, let us keep trusting, and let us keep remembering, you are not broken, you are becoming.